Morgan, meantime, we're getting this positive vaccine data out of Pfizer. Our Meg Terrell is back with Pfizer's Chief Scientific Officer. Hey, Meg.
Hey, Carl. Dr. Mikael Dolsten from Pfizer joins us now. Dr. Dolsten, thank you for being with us this morning. Tell us about these data. They're early. They're from the first human trial that you and BioNTech are doing together on this vaccine. But hearing from experts in the field, they look promising. How do you assess how they look in terms of getting a successful vaccine for COVID?
Yeah. Hi, Meg. Great to speak to you again. Well, this is the first data from a unique vaccine program that in just some 4 months have moved to generate clinical experience that shows reason to be encouraged. The preliminary data from the study shows that we can administrate our vaccine at a low effective dose. It's well tolerated, and it provides neutralizing titer reported to be above what you see in plasma from patients that recover from infection. As early do we record it as 4 weeks after starting the vaccinations. Local reaction where you inject the patients or systemic events after immunization with the 10 or 30 microgram of the low dose are tolerable, generally mild to moderate, and transient. No serious adverse events were reported. So we are obviously very encouraged by this good experience in humans, and we feel great to be able also to post today a manuscript on an open public source that allow other scientists in the world to review our data, and at the same time we submit it for publication.
Well, I want to ask you about those levels of the neutralizing antibodies seen in this study. One of the things that your team and BioNTech's note in that manuscript posted online is that we don't know yet what level of these neutralizing antibodies are needed to protect against the coronavirus. So as you look ahead to the phase 3 trial, what are you expecting this vaccine potentially to see based on the data that you've seen so far? How protective do you think it will be?
That's, of course, a key question, Meg. And as we stated, we are, moving rapidly in an area where we constantly learn together. And obviously, we share constantly our experience with the US FDA. Well, I am and believe that this is very encouraging. Compared to convalescent serum, we were 1.8 times with a 10 microgram and 2.8 times higher with a 30 microgram. So we were higher than what was seen with the convalescent plasma. And that's for neutralizing activity. And if you look to antibody levels, we were 8 times with a 10 microgram and 46 times higher with a 30 microgram. So I'm quite optimistic that this reflects the ballpark where you want to be to have a chance to deliver effective activity of a vaccine. We do know that from coronaviruses, convalescent plasma transfusion has shown activity if they're delivered early in disease. So of course, if you can raise those antibody levels that we discuss even before the disease, it makes me believe that this is really encouraging for us. And finally, I wanted to say, the mRNA platform that we are using also deliver activation in general of T cells that we have seen with previous vaccines. And we're just now recording that for this vaccine and we'll share shortly. So I think there could be more mechanisms operating in favor of the vaccine than what you see with convalescent plasma. So while this is early observations, and before you can be absolute confident in the direction for what we're hoping to be a phase 3 going into a large data set that could be the foundation for an emergency use authorization in the fall and a potential approval shortly thereafter. There are, of course, hurdles that we need to pass and more data that we need to generate. But I am optimistic and believe that we're onto something that is a very promising new vaccine.
Did I hear there's a question from the studio?
Oh, Meg, I've got a quick one for you, Doctor.
Okay.
Really quickly, not so much about the data, but about disclosure. The market obviously is keyed into any press release about data, no matter how preliminary, Doctor. I just wonder, what is the calculus right now? What is the process in terms of deciding when the market needs to get public information disclosed?
Well, you know, as our CEO, Albert Bola, said, we want to be transparent. We want to work and share our progress. He said that in his 5-point plan, and we have done that now. And this is not a press release, right? This is a write-up of a publication that is posted on an online server, and there is enough data for scientists, physicians to review and form their own opinion. And at the same time, we submit it to a peer review in a standard scientific journal. So I think this is a very good way of operating, and it's about allowing science to be transparently reviewed. And of course, we are optimistic about the data, and that's why we thought it represents a good time point to share it in the quality of a manuscript, and hope to see good feedback in peer review. And we continue to generate data, and we'll update in other forms of similar type of manuscript as we move forward towards July, later part of July, and hopefully start of a large pivotal study. And we work constantly in regulatory dialogue with the FDA and get great feedback and review the guidance and incorporate that into our plans. So I hope you will view this as state-of-the-art scientific integrity in a public health crisis, to share data when they are in a shape and form that we think others can review in a thorough way.
Dr. Dolsten, I also want to ask you about your manufacturing plans. As you're doing this clinical development, you are also scaling up manufacturing, and you now say you plan to have 100 million doses by the end of 2020, 1.2 billion doses by the end of 2021. This will be a 2-dose vaccine, so that will be 50 million people this year, 600 million in 2021. Is that right?
I think that is a good take at our plans. And of course, when you move with a technology and encouraging data, you want to make sure that you can shortly after a potential emergency use authorization that could come this fall, and hopefully full approval pending good data and regulatory dialogue, that you can supply the demand and the need for so many patients at risk, and of course to put society back into a more normal operating environment. So that's why we at Risk have invested in these plans. And we are very thrilled that we are able to record with such a low dose of the vaccine, 10 to 30 micrograms, this promising data, and that allows us so rapidly, of course, to see an opportunity to get into these types of doses.
Well, Dr. Dolsten, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We look forward to seeing more of the data as it comes out. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for your
All right,
interest, and a good day for science and patients.